So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live peoples having a natter in chat. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I had a wonderful surprise the last couple of days. Lovely Suzanne, Alfie's boss, has sent me some wonderful colour books. Excuse me. The first one is Mushrooms of the World with Pictures to Colour by Janet Bowers and text by David Aurora. And there's some gorgeous, wonderful pictures in this one. So I'm going to do a book flip of this. And then, because I've not been very well, I'd missed this particular book. So this is Epic by our wonderful Bennett Klein. Now, I love these books, but I will be colouring them in digitally. So if you wanted to colour Bennett Klein book, you can buy it digitally and then it arrives somewhere in your laptop. Excuse me. And you can arrange it in such a way that you can then take a page and put it into something like artrage or some other colouring software. So next week I'm going to be doing these will be digitally scanned in because they are physical. You can do this with any physical book. And I'm probably going to do that with mine as well. I'm going to try a couple of my pages and I'm going to scan them in because I want them to be A4 size, or we call A4 size printer paper size. And mine are just a little bit kind of bigger. So there'll be some digital art most of next Thursday. I work in markers digitally with blendable markers, and I really like that way of working. I work in oils and I can work in watercolours. And so I haven't quite decided what I want to do. I love working with markers. I've done about 4 or 5 pages digitally of Bennett Klein's, and I found it so much easier to buy the sketchbook online, and it's already in a PDF form that you just kind of bring out and pick the page you want to colour, depending on the software. And I've got about 5 different softwares. A couple I really love, Artrage. It's very, very easy and very simple to colour digitally. And I'll just do this very quickly, and then this is what comes up on a screen. Now you can use a mouse, or you can use a tablet, or you can use a Cintiq, or you can use you can colour on an iPad. But I love the fact that you've got your colours here and you've got your tools here. And I have a little circle out which is enlarge and reduce, and I always like to turn my pages so my wrist is comfortable. So you can turn this all the way around by the swing of a little button. And I love that idea. Now I work in blendable markers, and some of mine, I did the Badger Girl, and that took about 4 or 5 hours, maybe more. There's quite a few videos with that. This one was the Little Fox, and I zoom to 3 to 400, and I do a 0.1. You can see that's the marker, and it's 1%. It's very fine. So it takes just as long, if not longer, because I do it finer. The difference is I cannot physically get tops on and off pens. So digitally, it's a lot easier for me, but it does take a long time. It's not a cheat's way. Digital art is not a cheat's way. You can fill backgrounds in quite quickly, but if you want the really nice effects and the watercolor effects and the blendable effects, you still have to do them with the pen. But it just means that you don't have all your oil paints out and you don't have mess. And it means you can choose to do the same picture in lots of different mediums, which is wonderful, instead of having to buy the book twice. But it also means that I can work in markers in this book, and I can work in oils in this book, which is something in reality I cannot do, for two reasons. One is obviously this is paper, and the other one is I cannot really mix art oil colours anymore. My hands are a bit bleh. So that's a wonderful thing to be able to do that. Now, probably if my hands are better, I'll use pastels, because there's a couple of videos of how I used the first Bennett Kleins. Oh wow, look at that, is the pastels. And of course straight away I've just seen the fish, and I've just done the other fish in the Mythomorphia in Hydrus. So I can't do this physically in Hydrus unless I photocopy it onto card or something. But what I can do is scan it in and use extremely vibrant colours in a watercolour. So I could actually digitally do lots of things that physically I can't do. Oh, hi Dorothy, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else popping in? So I'll do this one first, because this one arrived first, and it's wonderful to receive something in the mail. I had a particularly bad week this week. I've been poorly, and everything I touched went wrong, and it's really wonderful to find something and something unusual that I wouldn't normally pick either. And I have never seen this book, and I love, of course, the watercolor effects. They are wonderful. So without further ado, I am going to do a flip. And I love the fact they're all named. Oh, that's the spotty one, the one that we use. That's the one like mine. Now, I don't really want to colour it too much, because it's going to I don't want it to influence my little fat mushrooms. So I was a bit worried about that. But seeing as I've already drawn mine, and some of my designs I've had since I was 16, and I'm 55 next week, so they've been in my brain a long time, so I think as a doodle they're not going to be influenced too much, but I do like those. Absolutely wonderful. They're the little ones that have the white dots, and I've read that you can wipe the white dots off if you want. It's kind of amazing, that. So Mushrooms of the World. So I would probably do this little page first, because it's again a practice. And I'm going to Google what they actually look like, and so that's what I want to colour them, to make them more reality. So photorealism is the word that I'm looking for. Oh, hi Kimberly, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else popping in? So this is wonderful. It tells you all about the mushrooms, and the ones you think are poisonous aren't. It's very strange. It's very strange. So we've got some really unusual names and a description about what they are, where they're found, and if they're poisonous or not. And a little bit of the habitat as well. So I kind of like that, because I can use that in reality. I've got daisies under mine, and mine are little houses, but I've also put brambles on things as well, And sometimes it's nice to know that, you know, these look a little bit like strawberries actually. Again, really, really weird, unusual toadstools. I got a book a couple of weeks ago, and I love the colours. This is what I bought it for, is to have a look how they grow, how they stand, how they fall, how they tilt. And I thought this one, and I actually drew this one before I saw that one, and I'm sorry I'm going on a rabbit trail, but I was so excited about drawing something that was obviously, I'd seen it somewhere, I can't remember, and I thought, oh well, that's actually, I think it's the first one I drew. Bear with me. It wasn't the first one I drew. It's going to call me a liar now because it's not the first one I drew. But this is the thing about art. One thing leads to another, reminds you of something else, and reminds you of something completely different. Yes, it was the first one I drew. And it looks like a little pack of houses, like a little community. So I really like that. And I thought, oh, well, I drew that before I even saw that. So that inspired me to think, oh, there's all these little mushrooms living in all these different worlds, like they're like detached houses, and they're like a little block of flats. And then we've got ones that are kind of semis, they're really next to each other, touching, like my little mushrooms. There's grey ones, brown ones, red ones, so you could really get so lost in toadstool land. And then especially when you think if you're a fairy and you're kind of a thumb height, these would be wonderful structures to hollow out and live in. And little ones that they've got the frill, I think that's called the frill, they would like little balconies. So you'd have your wonderful big house and you've got your little balcony to look out. And of course, who doesn't like a wonderful balcony on a good day? And these as well, I didn't see this one. Now this has got snow on it, so that's unusual because, again, my colour book, I was thinking, am I going to have it in seasons? So I can match up all these gorgeous drawings with reality. And there is a little bit of kind of where it's growing. So we've got grass here, some like woodland, some like bogs, some like tree trunks, rotting leaves, wet leaves. Now there's a challenge, wet leaves. So I think there's a fair thing to go on. I mean, everywhere you look in woods, there's rotting trees and rotting bark. So I kind of like that idea. And I do have a photograph of down the garden. There is a certain place where the mushrooms grow in a ring. And it's almost a perfect ring. There's a little gap, and then all the little mushrooms are all in a row. And there's nothing here. And that's like all you can get in here. And all the little mushrooms around. And it's just magical. There isn't another word for it. It's magical. So, and then we have the kind of really weird looking things that are really kind of fungal, and we really think, well, that's what mushrooms are really. But again, you know, they're really unusual and quite kind of futuristic in some ways. So some very nice, if not weird, things to colour. So toadstools have got a little world of their own, I'm sure. And again, you can see some have got different things. So I'm really looking forward to looking these up and drawing them. And there's different colours, and there's different... Now, you don't have to, actually. This is the death cap. Now, this is the one that is, if you touch it and lick your fingers, you'll probably die. That's how I... Yeah, a single cap can be fatal. But when I was a child, they said this one, if you licked your fingers when you picked them, you would be really, really ill. And they don't look particularly dangerous. I don't know if is it the first one in here. And it's not the one you think it's going to be either. And just have a quick look at this, because we've got to talk about mushrooms, because looking at mushrooms. Number 17. So let's have a look at number 17. So number 17 just looks like an innocent mushroom. It's not red, it's not bright, it's kind of unassuming. But it's deadly. So be very wary of picking mushrooms. So I'm going to love this book. Again, this is the fly one, this is the red one with the dots. So that's going to look quite amazing. I think it's the first one. So here we have, and again we have the little frill. So that's a really nice one to have. And that looks like a pine cone, so obviously it lives in the forest. So we've got a little bit of, we've got acorns, so again we've got a little bit of foliage to go around. So these look quite pretty, do these? And it's nice to see them in their own habitat. And it's very strange how they like different things. So again, you've got your toadstools, but then you've got a little bit about where they live and what they like, and in what country, because these are from the world. But I think these are European ones. Oh no, it just says the ultimate guide. The butterfly one is from English butterflies, but mushrooms must be different. So again, we've got clusters of them that look like little flats and little tiny communities. So I like the idea of thinking they're little houses. And some are on tree bark and some are on the ground. And again, you know, some creatures love them and some creatures hate them. So they've got some very unusual shaped ones. Is that the morel? So the morel mushroom is obviously the one that everybody hunts for because it's worth a lot of money. So you go for looking for morels in May in Michigan, where morel picking contests are held annually. See, I didn't know that. But I know when you're cooking, morel mushrooms are the most expensive. And on the back we have some wonderful colour plates of the mushrooms and their habitats. It's a very unusual one. And the morel one. They look like that when they're dried, so they don't look much different when they're dried and when they're not dried. But again, a tiny slither of those is wonderful it's about probably maybe 10-50 times stronger than a mushroom flavour, so although they're more expensive, you don't need as many. But that's the only one, and you buy them in a jar. You don't go picking them unless you're an expert. So that was the first book, Mushrooms of the World, to colour, which are absolutely gorgeous. So I will be using my little book. I'll be using my little book for that because I absolutely love it. So I'm going to say that's the end of part 1 of Mushrooms of the World, and part 2 will probably be digitally colouring them in. So thanks for watching.